Hi, and welcome to my Microsoft Excel Conditional Formatting Essentials course. My name is Quentin, and I will be your instructor for this course. In Excel, you can format your cells by applying borders, changing the font styles, changing font colors, filling your cells with specific colors, and so many more options to format your cells and make your spreadsheets look appealing. But that is a more permanent means of formatting cells. With conditional formatting, you can apply the exact same types of formatting to your cells, but based on specific criteria. Therefore, formatting based on condition. You create rules, and Excel will apply those rules and formatting only if a condition is met. This course is for anyone who wants to learn how to use conditional formatting and learn the essentials and become a master in using conditional formatting. Imagine you have a very large spreadsheet full of data and you need to find values that are over a specific value. To do that manually might take you some time, but with conditional formatting, all those specific cells will become visually more apparent and you can identify that data much quicker.
In this lesson, I will show you how you can use conditional formatting to format a range of cells based on a specific criteria that you give it. In this lesson, you will see there is a resource file named lesson 3. It's got a tab that says practice and a tab that says result. The result will be the conditional formatting done the correct way already. Practice would be for you to work from, and I will also be working on this sheet here. So if you do it yourself and you do get stuck, you can always go to my results worksheet and go and see what the right rules were and how they were applied. So what we need to do, all the products in this range here that contain the word produce needs to be filled with yellow, and all the sales values that are less than $1,000 need to be filled with red. They need to be bold, and the font color must be white. So let's simply do the first one. We highlight the range that we want to work from. Make sure you are on the Home tab. You'll go to Conditional Formatting, click on the little down arrow. So there are two ways to do it. The first one would be to just, because highlight cells is a very popular rule, they have it as one of the top ones. So you'll go to Highlight Cells, Text that contain. So now, as you can see, it already picks up the first word there, which is dairy, and it's already highlighted all the dairy. So we don't want the word dairy, we want the word produce, like that. And also we don't want it with a red fill with dark red text. So we'll click on the little down arrow here, custom format. You'll go on top here to fill, and we want it to be yellow. And then OK. As you can see there, they are all yellow. If we want to remove this conditional formatting, select your range again, click on the little arrow by conditional formatting, clear rules from selected cells, not from entire sheet, from selected cells. Another way to do this, we will click on conditional formatting, we'll say new rule. Now there are some options here. So format cells, all cells based on their values, we don't want that. We want format only cells that contain. So the cell value, we want a specific text. So containing the word produce, and how do we want it formatted. Doing it this way is nice because it gives you an actual preview of what it would look like. So how do we want it formatted? We want it filled with yellow, and this is basically what it's going to look like. Let's just move this out the way. As you can see, it's the same there, and press OK, and then you'll see they are all highlighted, well, they're all filled yellow. The next one would be to work on the sales, the totals range. So we'll select this whole range here. I am selecting the whole range, including the subtotals. Don't worry about that. We want to find something that is less than $1,000. So now we'll go to conditional formatting. You can use the highlight cells again and choose less than. It would work the same as the previous one, but I'll do it as new rules. So we'll do new rule. Format cells that contain a cell value. So we're formatting only cells that contain a cell value, which is what we want, because we're not working on any of these. We want a cell value that is less than 1,000. How do we want the format to look? I'm just going to move this out the way again. We want it to be red. We want the font to be bold. And we want the font color to be white. So that is what it would look like that. And then we'll simply say OK. And as you can see, all the cells with values less than 1,000 has been formatted to our criteria. If something goes wrong and you can't find the fault, we can always go to the results section here. Just highlight the cell there, click on conditional formatting and say manage rules. Then you'll see here's the rule here. You can click on edit rule and then you can see what I've selected here and see where you've gone wrong if there were any mistakes. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how to use conditional formatting to change the formatting on cells based on a dynamic environment. So basically, if we change something in a specific cell, the formatting also needs to change and update dynamically. I'll show you what I mean with the results here. Again, you can download this lesson as a resource document. So right now it's formatting the cells containing dairy. I made a little drop down here, so if we want to change that to produce, it would change to produce there, grain, etc. If we were to change the number here, let's make it $2,000, it would highlight the cells based on the new input. Just change it back. So to do that, I'm going to show you how to do it using a formula. There is another way. You can use the greater than and equal to as well, but I'll just show you how to use the formula and then quickly show you the quick formatting as well. But it's important that you understand the formula, as you can make a mistake that way. So what you need to do again is highlight your range. We'll go to formatting, we'll say new rule. Now you're going to say use a formula to determine which cells to format. Okay, so let's do the first one. We want our format to be yellow like this. And basically what the formula does, it checks if your argument that you give it is true. If it's true, it would do the formatting. If it's false, it will not do the formatting. Simple as that. So to start a format, you will always start with equals. So what you want to see is if you put equals and then you give it a statement. So we want to see whether our cell there, you always select the first cell in your range, is equal to the cell here. Now I'm going to press OK. It's not going to calculate correctly, and then I'll show you why that has happened. So if we press OK here, you'll see that it highlights all of them, but that's wrong. And why is that? Let's highlight our cells so that we can go and see where the error is in the conditional formatting rule here. We'll highlight our cells, click on conditional formatting, go to manage rules. We'll click there, and now I can already see where the mistake is, but I'm going to open it up so we can either say edit rule or double click. So what it's doing now, it's applying the same rule to all of these. So as you would fill a series in Excel, when you do a formula and you drag it down or copy it over, it updates the cells that it works from automatically because it is based on relative reference and not absolute reference. So in conditional formatting, when you select a specific cell to work from, it automatically applies absolute reference. So right now this formula is locked onto this first block only, and when it copies it over to the next one, it would also look for that word and not the actual value in the cell. So we'll need to remove the absolute reference from the first argument only. So we need to see if B2 as a relative reference is equal to G4. G4 needs to be an absolute reference, so you need to keep the little dollar signs there, because if we don't put it as absolute and we put it as relative, it would basically look for these empty cells, and that's not what we want. So make it relative on the cell that you want to find. This is basically your cell that's going to get the formatting, and what we're finding needs to stay the same. So let's see if it works now, and press OK, and there we go. So now if we were to change this to produce, it changes, to grain, it changes. Let's do the same on the values here. We want to look for values less than 1,000, but we can change this value and it needs to update accordingly. Select it, conditional formatting. Again, you can use this. I'll show you how to quickly, but let's just do the formula first. So new rule, formula. We'll make our format in the meantime. We want it red filled, we want the font to be bold, and we want the color of the font to be white. What is the formula? Equals, again, always equals. If that cell, but immediately remove the absolute reference, is less than that cell, that one stays as absolute reference. And there we go. All of those are less than 1,000. If we were to make this 1,500, there will be one more added there. If we were to make it 3,000, well, they will all be added. And that's how if we were to make it 500, none of them will be added. And that is how they dynamically update. To do this without the formula, simply clear the rules. We'll do highlight cells. We'll go less than, and we want the less than what to be 1,000, or we'll just click on our reference cell, custom format, white font, bold font, red fill. And that is how you can do it without using a formula. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use conditional formatting to format cells based on their rank. So this specific formatting would only work on numbers, as text can't be ranked. So what we'll find here, we'll find the attendance. So we've got a product promotional tour that has been done across a whole lot of US cities throughout the year. There was record made of the attendance, how many products were sold, and what the total sales were from each city. So we want to highlight attendance in the top 25%. We want to format the top 10 values. So this is percentage, and this is the top 10, the highest 10 values, and values as per the sales totals. And we want to format products sold above average. Again, you can always go and check the results if you get stuck. But what we'll need to do is this one will have to be orange cell, bold with white font, blue bold with white font, and a green cell bold and just normal font color. So we'll start with attendance. So again, we highlight the attendance. We'll go to conditional formatting. We can go to highlight cells, but I'm going to start with the new rules and show you how to do that. So format only top or bottom ranked values. This is what we want in this case. So I'm going to just move it out the way here so we can see. So we want the bottom 25%. So bottom 25 and percent. We need to tick for percent. Otherwise it would work out the bottom 25 values, and there's less than 25 values. So it's just going to highlight, format all of them. What is our format? Okay, our format is font. We're on font, so let's start there. Font, white, and our fill is orange. I think it's that one, yes. And that's what it would look like. You can always just see that it's the same. Doesn't matter, you can do it whatever color you want. It's just to get the formatting rules correct. Okay, and as you can see, those are the bottom 25% totals. The top 10 values in sale. So the top 10 values, not percentage. So we'll select our sales, go to conditional formatting, new rule, format only top or bottom ranked values again. So we want top 10 values as it is here already. We want it to be blue, cell full blue, font style bold, font color white, like that. Okay, so that would be the top 10 sales. So then we can already try and work out whatever our purpose is, work out where we made the most money, where we had the most attendance or the least attendance, and so forth. And now format products sold above average. So what would average be? Let's just quickly see here what is average. We'll see what is the average here. So our average is basically 57.47. Okay, I'll just leave that here for now, just to show you that it does work it out correctly. So products sold above average. So products sold, select them there. So everything that's above 57.47, as you can see there, average 57.47, needs to be formatted this way. Format cells, new rule. We'll go to format only values that are above or below average. We want above the average, and we want it to be bold. The font stays black, and green, that one. And let's see. Okay, so let's see if everything is above 57.47. Yes, 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 yes. And everything below 57.47 did not get formatted. And that is how you can do the top, bottom, and above average conditional formatting. Always go back to the results if you want to just see where something went wrong. But thank you, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use conditional formatting to not only format the specific value that is currently inside the cell, but also add something to it. So in this case, I'm going to go to the results. The top two grades, so the total grade, so students, there were some quizzes, exams. Obviously, the exams count a bit more than the quiz, and then they had a final grade based on these scores here. So the top two will need to format the font to be green, and it needs to say this excellent exclamation mark before the actual score. So as you can see, this one here, it's 91, and that one there is 88. So those are the two that will be formatted, but I'll also change some values around just so you can see that it does update dynamically as well. So to do this, we select our grade. We'll go to Format Cells. We'll go to New Rule. We're going to use the same top values. We want the top two, not percent, just two. Now the trick comes in with our format settings. So format settings, let's do the font first. We want it bold, and we want the color to be green. Think about, yeah, that looks correct there. Now there is another part of this, which is the number. You can actually put a specific number, so you can change a general number, the output from the conditional formatting, to change a general number to currency or to percentage or whatever. But then we've also got custom. So custom will say here, sorry, I don't know why that didn't want to highlight. There we go. We'll highlight general here, and then we're going to open apostrophes. So we're going to say, you have to open apostrophes because we're adding text. So we'll say excellent, exclamation mark, and a space because there's a space between them. And then for it to read our number, you just simply put 00 like that. So that's just a sample of what it would look like. So we'll put apostrophes, your word you want to use, space, close your apostrophes, and then 00 would now refer to our value. Press OK. This is just an example of what it would look like. Let's see if we say OK, and there we go. Now those two have the word excellent with the mark in front of it. Let's, for instance, change the score on the exam here. Say the score there was only 72. So then that score would go down. As you can see now, because the grade went down to 80, that one is now the second highest, and that one gets the excellent. Just undo there, and that is how you can apply the conditional formatting. In this case, you can go to the results. We can go to manage rules, and you'll see there the format is top two. In a case like this, you might need to go and see if you've done something wrong with the number format here. So you'll have to physically go in and check if everything has been typed out correctly here, if it doesn't work out. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can format cells with duplicate values. In this case, there's a little customer database, and you've captured, or you might be working from a specific database and need to find duplicates. Much easier than to go and find it like this, or sort it alphabetically first and then go through and then change it back again. So in a case like this, we've just got some mixed values, no entry order here, and we want to find duplicates, and we want to highlight the cell with the orange fill and a black font that is bold. So we are looking for the specific customer's name in this range here, so highlight all your customer names. We'll go to conditional formatting, new rule. There is also a duplicate values here, but we'll just go new rule. Format only unique or duplicate values. So that is what we want. Format all duplicate. You can change to unique there, but format all duplicate values in the selected range. And we need it to be font bold. The color needs to stay as it is. And our fill needs to be orange. Let me just see that it's correct. Yes, it is. So orange fill, black bold font. Okay. And there we go. Now we can eliminate the duplicates in here, and we can carry on with our database for whatever we need to use it. Again, you can always refer to the results to see how it was done there. But thank you, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use icons instead of values to format cells. So in a case like this, we've got sales made through our different regions, the end of 2021 and then 2022's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3 and quarter 4. The sales are in millions, so that would be 60 million. And then we need to find out a couple of things here, but we want it to look a bit more appealing, and that's why we use some icon sets. So I've got two different results that I want to calculate here. The first one is just the status. So on this one, the status KPI, we will allocate an icon for values higher than or equal to 65 million, values between 45 and 65, and values below 45. So that's would basically be the same value. I'll show you what we'll do to change it over into an icon. Then with regards to the trend, we want to see from the one quarter to the next quarter, what happened. Did it move up? Did it stay sort of even, or did it go down? So in order to do that, we need to see the difference between the trends. So difference between the trend for quarter 2 will be the difference between quarter 2 and quarter 1. So quarter 2 minus quarter 1. This one would be quarter 1 minus quarter 4 of the previous year, and so on. And then if the difference is more than 10 million, it would show an up arrow. If it's between 0 and 10 million, a straight arrow. And if it's below 0, so basically if it went down, like this one went down, so in this little cell here, there will be a down arrow. Before we can actually apply this, I'm going to calculate the value so that you can also see that you need to actually calculate the values. In this case, our status will be the same as our quarter, so it would just be equals to that one. I'm going to copy it and just simply select all my cells here and paste it in, so we'll see they're all the same. The trend will be for quarter 1 will be quarter 1 minus quarter 4 from the previous year. I can't copy it over to this one, so I'll just do it this way. This will be quarter 2 minus quarter 1. And now I can copy all of these over. So that is our trend. But now if we have to work on data like this, it's a bit bland and really not easy to work from. And then that is why we can use icon sets in conditional formatting. So let's start with the status first. So simply highlight all your statuses at once. You do not have to do it individually. Select your range, hold your control key down, and highlight all your status ranges like that. I'll go to conditional formatting. I'm going to say new rule, and we want cells that contain so once you've highlighted all your ranges, go to conditional formatting. You'll see there it says icon sets here. Go to more rules, and then we can choose our icon set. So in this case, if there's 3 icons, it would have 3 rules. There will be stuff with 4 icons, for instance, that would have 5 rules. So basically in this case, up, little diagonally up, diagonally down, and down. But we just want to look for this one, which is our icons used here. And we are looking for values above or equal to 65. Let me change it to number first. Always, sorry, your type must always be number because we're not working above 65%. We're working on an actual value. So above or equal to 65, between, so it's smaller than 65 but above or equal to 45, and smaller than 45. I just tick there so that it can just update the 45 here, and we'll say show icon only or important, otherwise it's going to show the result, the value and the icon next to it, and simply say OK, and there we go. Now we can see that these are ones that we need to be looking at. This is a bit of a worry for us. This is low, and these ones are good. Now you can allocate specific KPIs or specific values to each specific region. Obviously they're not going to all work the same, but this is just to show you how you can use it. Then the trend will highlight the trends, all the trends, like this. Highlight all of them. Go to conditional formatting, icon set, or you can simply go to new rule. Format all cells based on their value with an icon set, and we want this icon set with the 3. So only got 3, and it's right on top, so 3 arrows. Change this to number. Make sure you tick icon only when the value is above or equal to 10. So above 10. When the value is below 10 and equal to 0, and when the value is below 0, so if it's a minus basically. Let's say OK here, and as you can see, all the ones with down arrows have obviously gone down from the previous quarter. If we just look here, we'll see it was 72, it went to 69. These ones are more or less what we want, although we really want it to go up. At least it's not gone down. So it's gone up, or it stayed the same or gone up slightly with less than 10 million. And you can always refer back to my results worksheet to check if you've done anything wrong. But that is how you would use these icon sets to work out status and trends or whatever it is that you need to calculate. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use icon sets to format cells based on rating. This is part 2 of icon sets as conditional formatting. There will be 2 more lessons on that. So in this specific lesson, we want to see our rating and then also an overall score. I left the overall score blank because I'm going to calculate it in the lesson. So this is based on some bicycles and with specific criteria with regards to them, just a rating for each one of those, and then it will give us an overall score. So at the end, our result would look like that. We'll see each rating with a 5 will be a full circle, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. like that. So that's an excellent, very good, good, fair, and poor rating. So again, you need a specific value, but now we've just typed in our values here, but it looks a bit boring, so using an icon set might look a little bit more appealing. Maybe we want to print it out and use it for whatever means we need to. So to create some icon sets would look a little bit better. So let's just work out the overall score here. We'll just use the average function. So the average there, that would be a 3, and so forth. So these are the ratings. Now to do this icon set, to apply conditional formatting based on this icon set, we'll select our whole range including the overall score. Go to conditional formatting. You can go to icon set again, or you can say new rule. Let's do icon set, more rules. Don't just simply click on here, because as you can see, it's giving us what it would look like, but it's not taking away the values. So never just simply click on here. You need to create your rule, unless if it's something very simple. So we'll go new rules. It would automatically be on icon set. And now we need to find that specific one, which is the 5/4 one. Okay, and first thing, show icon only. The type is number. Change all of these to number. And now simply we've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that first one would be the value is above or equal to 5, above or equal to 4, above or equal to 3, above or equal to 2. And then the last one would be, if it's below 2, it would have a open circle. You can also change it to just above, not above and equal to. So just above. But let's say okay here. And there we go. Now we can display our ratings in a bit more visually appealing manner instead of just random lot of numbers. And again, you can see that these two look exactly the same. If you need to go back and check for reference, please go to this results worksheet here. But thank you so much. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use the up and down arrows only from this specific icon set. So if we look at the icon set, the specific one is actually 3 arrows. You'll get the green for up, yellow for sideways, and red for down. But we don't want to use this yellow one. We only want to use up and down. And then we'll do some further formatting if the value is above 0, so basically if the value's gone up, we'll put the green arrow and we'll make the font green. And then if the value's gone down, basically minus whatever, we'll put the down red arrow and make the font red. So we eliminate the middle arrow. So to do this, we highlight our cells. Basically, this is sales and the trend. Has it gone up from the previous month or down from the previous month? For this first one, I just thumb sucked an amount from basically December 2021. And then we'll determine how the trend is. Conditional formatting always makes things look a little bit better. And if we look at the result here, you can clearly see when it's gone up and when it's gone down. So it makes reading reports a lot easier. So what we'll do, we'll select the range that we want to format. We'll go to conditional formatting, and I'm not going to say new rule. I'm going to click on manage rules because we're going to apply 3 different rules in this one. So our first rule, we'll say new rule. Let me just put this so I can see everything. We'll say new rule, and we will choose icon set by format all cells based on their values, icon set. And now we want the arrows, 3 arrows, and we want to change this to number. We don't want to tick this box show icon only because we actually want to show the icon and the value. So as it is right here, it is already right because all values higher than 0 must get a green icon. The yellow icon will apply when the value is higher than 0 and when the value is lower than 0 and higher or equal to 0. And then the red arrow will apply when it's lower than 0. So that will be our first rule in this formatting. We can just click apply and you can see that it's applied the first rule. Now we want to put a new rule. So the new rule will be format cells that contain if the cell value is greater than or equal to 0. We want to format the color of the text as green. Okay, so like that, green. Let's click OK. We can apply it and you'll see all the ones that's gone up have now changed to green. And then we'll need another rule here. Format cells that contain if the cell value is less than 0. We'll make the text, the font color red. So OK there, and apply, and OK. So there you have it. 3 rules applied to the same range. We've added an icon and we've changed the color of the font. Again, you can always have a look at my results. If you want to see what's been done, select the range, click on conditional formatting, manage rules, and then you can go into each one and see what's been selected. And that is it for this lesson. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use conditional formatting to format the cells with a specific icon, or we'll choose an icon set, but that displays only when one condition is met. So normally the icon sets are through 3 or more conditions. In this case, we want to apply this little circle icon only to the values that is less than 500. So to do this, we'll apply two rules. Select our range firstly, go to Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules, and we'll say New Rule. So let's do the icon first. We'll say icon set. We'll choose this one here, and we want to apply this specific one when, let's just change these to numbers. So this one must be when the value is less than 500. So we'll put 500,000 in the first argument here. So it would pop out a green icon if the value is more than 500. If the value is less than 500 but more than 0, it would give us this icon, which is what we want, value less than 500. We're not worried about that for now because we're going to eliminate that. Click OK. So if we apply now, all the values that's above 500 is going to get a green circle. So let me just show you there. Now we need to remove all those little green icons. So we create a new rule. We'll say format only cells that contain, format only cells with a cell value that is greater than, because we need to create a condition that is the same as the green circle now. So, sorry, greater than or equal to 500,000. And we don't set a format because we want it to be as it was. Say OK. Now, if we look at Conditional Formatting Rules Manager, the rules are applied in order shown. So this specific rule must always be on top. If you were to do this one first and then the icon set would have been on top, and you can then move it with the arrows here up or down. So what we'll do is tick this box, stop if true. What Excel will then do is first look for this value. If it finds that value, it applies this rule and it stops, so it doesn't go on to the next rule. So in a case where, let me just apply so you can see all the green ones have gone now. So in a case, it takes each cell as its own argument. So let's look at this cell B3, for instance. The first thing it does is check if the cell value is more than 500. If it's true, it applies this format, which is no format, and it stops. It doesn't go on to the next rule. If we look at the next one, B4, it first looks at if the cell is greater than or equal to 500,000. Stop if true. It's not true though, it's false. So it moves on to the next argument, and that is when it applies the yellow icon. And that is how you can eliminate other icons and also let Excel check for specific conditions first. If you don't want it to carry on, just always tick that stop is true box and it would not carry on with the rest of the rules created. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can format cells using the data bars from Conditional Formatting. So what we'll do here is we'll apply the first rule to the first column, then the percent to the percent column, the percentile, so it means values between the 10th and 90th percentile, to the percentile column, and the same one but with a different type of data bar to this one. So when we are done, there won't be values here, it would only be the bars. So this is just a little spreadsheet containing some lakes around the world and their square miles. So let's start with the first one. We have to do each one individually here. So we'll select our range of cells. We want to apply bars from lowest to highest. So we'll click on conditional formatting here. You can see there is a data bars here already. So we'll just go to more rules. And what is the type that we want? We want from lowest value to highest value. And we want to fill it with a gradient green. So bar appearance, fill, you get solid or you get gradient. So we want it as gradient and we want it as a green. And then that is basically all we need to do here. You can apply a border, but I don't want to apply a border in this case. And we don't want to show the bar only. That would be for the last column. And then let's hit OK. And as you can see now, the higher the value, the more space in the cell the bar would take up. But I made it gradient because there's text in it, and if you use quite a dark color, you might not be able to read the text, and then you might need to change the font color to white, but then that also means that these numbers here would just disappear completely because they'll turn to white. So let's do percent 0 to 100, which would basically be a copy of this one just done in another way, because it goes from 0% to 100%. But with this, you can choose where you want. You can put it as 20% to 80% or whatever, so it's a bit more powerful. Again, select there. We'll go to data bars, more rules, and we want percentage. So it would automatically start with 0 and end with 100, but you can change things here. Again, we don't want to show the data bar only. We want the gradient fill and we want it as blue. It is blue right now. So let's do that. And as you can see, it gives you the same result as the previous one, but just based on percentage and not based on value high to low. The next one would be bars between the 10th and 90th percentile. And we'll do this with a gradient yellow fill. So select our range. You can always just go to new rule here and we'll choose format all cells based on their values. Based on their values, the style is data bars. Now we want percentile, and we want 10 to 90 as it is here. So you can just enter there 10 to 90 or whatever percentile you want. And we want this gradient and yellow. No border, and we don't want to only show the bar. So see, things do look a little bit different in this one to the percent, and you'll see it more clearly in this last one. So let's do the same one. New rule based on value, data bar, percentile 10 to 90. We want this one as orange. Let's put orange there. And on this one we want to show the data bar only. And okay, so this is basically a copy of this one, but just the formatting that we've chosen is different. Solid color and no values, just a bar. And this is gradient color with the values and then highest to lowest. So there are quite a couple of other options that you can use with the data bars, but this is just to give you an idea of exactly how it works. Again, you can go to my results. It's already been done exactly the same to check if you need to make any changes or if it doesn't work. But yes, that is it for this lesson. Thank you, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can format cells with the color scales tool from Conditional Formatting. These color scales only work on cells with values. So what it basically does, we have a graded 2 color and a graded 3 color, and we'll apply a range, and what it would do is sort of rank those values from low to high. So our color we assign to the lower values will the lowest one will be that color, and then the highest one would be the color we assign to the highest. For the higher values, the highest value would be that color, and then the values in between would gradually change from the one color to the other color. So sort of like a heat map. So we'll apply the 2 color one to all the product sales here, and then we'll do the 3 color one to the total sales. So let's start firstly here. Now we want to see based on the which country has sold, oh well, the sales in which country is the most and least for a specific product. So we can't select our whole range, we have to do each one. So we'll do that one, then that one, then that one, each one individually. So select our first range. You can always go to color scales here, or we can go to new rule, and it will be on 2 color scale. That would be where it would open. So based on their values, 2 color scale. We want to start with the lowest value and highest value. So our lowest value color would be, I'm not quite sure now. I think it was this one here. Yeah, that looks more or less like that color. And the highest value one would be the blue, maybe a darker blue. Yes, that looks like it. I'm selecting light colors so that we can still visibly see the text, because on the color scales we cannot remove the text. If you want to go dark colors, you need to add, we need to just change your text to white, or a color that you can read it. So let's just say okay here, and then we'll see the very lowest color, with the very lowest value, which would be this one, is exactly that color. Then as they change a little bit more towards the other color, and then the very highest value is exactly the other color. So let's do the next one. Okay, and then we can do the next one by simply selecting our range. We'll go to paint format painter, so it means we copy the format from here to there, we paint it onto the next range. So we'll paint it there, and we've automatically copied the conditional format over to the next range. In the total sales, we want to do 3 graded 3 color. So let me go into color scales this time. I'll go to more rules, and then we end up at the same place. go to 3 color, and we basically want lowest value, midpoint or around the 50th percentile, and highest value. So our lowest value needs to be red, our middle values need to be green. I think it should be that green there, yeah, and our higher values must be blue, that blue there. And as you can see now, all the low values, like this is the lowest value, so that's exactly red, and the highest value is this one, that's exactly the same as the blue color, and they also gradually change between these colors as they go from the one to the other one. And that is how you can use color scales to format values basically based on their rank. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can fill every alternative row, so every second row, how you can fill it with a specific color. If you don't have a lot of rows, you can simply just highlight every second row, but when it comes to quite a lot of rows, that can take a bit of time. So I'm going to explain how you can do it. You'll use a formula based on formula for the specific one, and I've put the formula here for you, and then I'll explain the logic behind the formula. So the first thing we need to do is to highlight our range. We'll go to conditional formatting, we'll say new rule, and use a formula to determine which cells to format. Now I'm going to first change the fill color here to blue, and then we'll type the formula. So what we'll do, we're going to take two functions. We're going to take the mod function and the row function. The mod function calculates a modulus of a certain number divided by another number. So if we use 2, the number 2 as our divisor, we will always get a modulus of 1 or 0. That's the only two mods that you will get from the value 2. That is because anything that is divisible by 2 would not have anything left to it. Mod is basically what is left after one number is divided by another number. So if 2 is the divisor, there will, and it's an equal number basically, there won't be anything left because every equal number can be divided by 2, and every odd number that's divided by 2 will leave a mod of 1. So I'll quickly explain that. If you want to understand more about the mod functions or any functions I use in this course, please enroll in my important functions course. But for now, I'll just give you a quick rundown of how this works. So let's enter our our formula here. So we'll say mod, and then we use the row function to calculate the row number. So if it's row 2, for instance, it would be an even number, row 3 odd, row 4 even, row 5 odd, and so on. So we calculate the row, that's your row function. Then the next argument in mod. The mod function has a specific number and it has a divisor. Our divisor is 2. So we've got mod. The row number is the number that will be divided by 2 to leave the mod, and then equals 1. So If the result from the mod formula is equal to 1, it would highlight that cell. Basically every single cell in the row of the range that we've selected, because this formula is used on every single cell, but they're all in the same row, so that's why your row number will always be the same. And if the result of this formula is true, it would highlight, because that is how conditional formatting works with a formula. It checks whether a formula is true. If the formula is true, it would apply the conditional formatting. If it's false, it will not apply it. So let's just say OK here. And as you can see, every second row is now highlighted or filled with the light blue. This, you'll see that it would be every odd. If you want to change that, you can just update the formula and say row and -1 or +1, rather say +1. So row +1. Then it would give you the opposite of the actual row number. It would change it from odd to even. So let me explain to you. I'm going to do the actual formula here so that you can see what I mean. So we'll use the exact same formula. We'll say mod, and then it shows you a little bit better. So our number here would be row. Then the reference for the row, what do we want this reference to be? We want it to be Q11. That's the row. It will check what row number that is in this case, and then we'll put our divisor. Our divisor is 2, and hit return. And let's just copy this formula down. And as you can see, every odd number gives you a result of 1, and every even number gives you a result of 0. And that is the logic behind why this specific formula with these two functions work to do this here. We can also apply this if you have a very large range and you want to just apply it right down to the end. You can do that by simply selecting all the rows. So if we select a column, we select all the rows down up to the very last row of 1,048,576. So let's clear the conditional formatting here, and then we'll create a new rule based on formula. Let's just make it the blue again, and we'll say equals mod, the modulus of the row number divided by 2 equals 1. So if the modulus of the row number divided by 2 equals 1, then Excel, please highlight the rows in, or highlight the cell, because it's basically only highlighting the cell, but we've selected all the cells. And now you can see that every single alternative row is highlighted. If we want to do every second row, let's just do it yellow, just to give you another example formula. We'll make it yellow, and we'll say if the modulus of the row number plus 1, because that's our value, divided by 2 equals 1. Or you can just say if the modulus of the row number divided by 2 equals 0. Then it would also give you the same result. And now you can see every even numbers row, every even number, the entire row for our selection is now yellow. Then you can go back to my results and just check. You can actually just select any little cell and just go to manage rules and see what I've done with the formula here, just to make sure that you've got it right. I've just got this same calculation here as well, but that is basically how you would fill every alternative cell with a specific background color. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can use conditional formatting to format cells by comparing data to a cell that's outside of the actual range. So in this case, we've got sales per quarter per city, and we've got a total for the full year for that specific city. So we want to see which quarter value contributed to 30% or more of the total, and which one contributed to 20% or less of the total. So there are some formatting that we're going to do here. For the ones that are 30% more, we'll make them blue, we'll make them bold, and we'll double underline them. And then 20% or less, we'll make them red, bold, and we'll put them in brackets like this. So just a couple of extra features that you can also do. Now, in order to do that, we need to select only our range that we want to format. We leave this one out, but we will be working from this, and I'll explain everything as we go. So again, new rule, formula. So let's get our the 30% or higher first. Let's get our formula right, our formatting right, sorry. We want it to be blue, and we want it to be bold, and we want to double underline it. This is all by the font. We're not doing anything to the fill or border or anything, just like that. And now if the formula is true, so if this specific cell, now the first thing you'll see is that in conditional formatting, I have explained this, but just recapping, if you select a cell, the conditional formatting tool always makes it an absolute reference. So if we were to leave this as absolute reference, it would not work, because when it draws over to the next cell, it will stay at B3. It won't go on to C3. So this specific cell, we need to remove the absolute reference completely. So is B3 more than 30% of the total? Did it contribute more than 30% to the total? So what we can do is B3 more than, then we open our brackets. So we'll take our total times 30%. So is B3 more than our total times 30%? Now on this one, we want to remove the absolute reference to the row, because when it gets copied down, if we leave that as absolute reference, all these numbers would work from our first total and not from the total belonging to their own row. So remember, if you copy a formula over, it would, if you leave it as relative, if you keep it as if you make it a relative reference, the B will go on to C, and the 3 would go down to 4 as you move it along. But we don't want this to move on to G or H or whatever because there are no values. We want to lock it on the totals column, but not on the rows because it needs to copy down to the rows. So the formula will check if this is true. Is our quarterly individual value more than our total times 30%? And let's say okay. And as you can see, all these ones have contributed more than 30% to the actual total. So let's do the next one here. We can just go to manage rules now and create a new rule. We'll do formula again. Let's start with the formula. So equals S, the cell, relative reference, less than our total, unlock the row. Sorry, I forgot to put it in brackets, always put it in brackets. Less than our total times 20%. Now to do our formatting. On this specific one, we've got a couple of things we need to do. We need to make it bold. We need to make the font red, and we need to put it in brackets like that. So how are we going to do that? Because there's no specific option to give us that. We'll have to do the number formatting like we did in one of the previous lessons. So you'll click on the number formatting, go to custom, select this. Now we need to add some text to the before the value and after the value. So we'll open our apostrophes, we'll put our bracket in, we'll put our dollar sign in. There's no space, so we close our apostrophes now. Now we put our value in. So I'm just gonna do it like that just to show you how to put the space in with this, the 1000 separator as well. So let's add more text to it now. We put our closing brackets in. Remember, all the text you add is between the apostrophes, and this refers to your value, the 0. But as you can see now, that doesn't look right. If we okay now, there's no space separating the thousands. So let's go back. What we do is we say 00 space 000, and that represents our value now. The first two numbers and then space and then the rest of them. So that is the format that we wanted in. Hit OK, apply, OK, and as you can see, all the red ones contributed less than 20% of the actual total. Again, you can go to my results worksheet and look at it if you just want to see how it was done. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can format an entire row based on set criteria. For this conditional formatting to work, we need to use the AND function. So just a quick explanation of conditional formatting. If we have a range like this, we want to apply conditional formatting to this range. The conditional formatting tool or Excel does not work on a specific row or a specific column. It works on each individual cell as its own argument. So we will give it the rules, and it needs to be either true, the argument needs to be true, or the argument needs to be false. If the argument is true, Excel will apply the conditional formatting that we've applied, and if the argument is false, it would not. So in a case like this, we need each one of these cells in the same row in our range to give an argument of true. So that is why we use the AND function. If you want to learn more about functions, please enroll in my important functions course. This is also one of the functions that I explain in there. So what I've done here is I've created a just an empty range here that's the same size with regards to columns and rows, and we'll apply the AND function here first just to show you the logic. So the AND function, what it does, you give it criteria, and every argument, every criteria that you give it, or every logic that you give it, needs to be true in order for it to give you a value of true. And that is exactly what conditional formatting does. If your value equals true, it applies. If it equals false, it doesn't. So this would just show us a whole lot of true or false values to show you how conditional formatting would apply it to our range here. So let's apply the AND function. We'll start with AND. So in this case, what is logical one? Is the product dairy? So what we need to do, we need to lock the column on here, because we're going to copy this formula over into each one of these, but we don't want the row to be copied. But this first cell would represent the first cell here, which is actually the date. But we need to work from this specific cell here. So is B2 equal to dairy? That's our first argument. Then it needs to see if that argument is true. In this case, B2 would be dairy. If we were to copy this formula down to the next row, it would work on B3 because we haven't locked, so it's not a full absolute reference on this specific cell. It's absolute on B but relative on 2, so absolute on the column, relative on the row, and each cell in the whole row needs to have the exact same formula. So we'll check is B2 dairy, and then we'll check is our sales value, which is D2. Again, put the dollar sign in front of the D because we need to lock the column but not the row. Is D2 greater than 1000? So in this case, we know it's true, so our result should be true. Let's see what it says. As you can see there, it says true. Now I'm simply going to copy this whole formula over. I've put the absolute reference at the columns and not on the rows, so it would work perfectly to copy it. Now, if this was the conditional formatting and we see this and this as the same thing, it would yield a value of true, 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 and true. So it would apply the formatting to each one of these cells, and then all of these would be false, that one would be true, that one would be true. So as you can see, every cell in the same row has the same value of either true or false. Now let's go ahead and actually apply this to our range here. So we'll select our range, we'll go to conditional formatting, new rule, we will select use a formula. Let's just set our formatting, which is just fill the cells with the light blue here. And now we need to check, is this formula true? Does this formula yield a result of true, or is it true? Does it make sense? So, and let me just type in caps here, equals and is this cell. Remember now, the same as what we did here in this range that we've created here, it works on each cell individually. So each cell needs to have the exact same formula. Right now we are on the first cell in the range, which is A2. but because we've selected it, once we apply the conditional formatting, it would apply it to each one. So we need to make sure that our column is absolute, but our row is not absolute. Otherwise, it won't go down here. So first argument is B2 dairy. Second argument, you split the arguments or the logics with a semicolon, is D2, our first in the same row, our first sales total. Again, remove the absolute reference from the row. Is this one greater than 1000? And close our formula there. And as you can see, it highlighted those three rows there in our range, which are all true. And that is how you can apply conditional formatting to highlight entire rows based on set criteria. You can have multiple criteria here. You will just add the next criteria separated by a semicolon. If we were to do logic, the next logic, we'll just add a semicolon and we apply the next logic and the next one and the next one. But remember, all of those arguments need to be true in order for the formula to yield a value of true, or the function to yield a value of true. If you just want to see if it's one argument or the other argument or another argument, you will use the or function and not the and function. Again, you can go to my results and you can just select a range, look at the rule, and see what the formula is and how I applied it, if you get stuck at all. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how you can format an entire row based on values that are unique. In lesson number 7, we used this same customer database, but we did the duplicates one. Now we're going to use the uniques one, but we're going to use a formula to calculate it because we want to select every cell in the row, like with the previous lesson. So in this case, unique values means they only appear once. So basically what we need to get to is if the value of our formula equals 1, then it would highlight it. So that would be the only case when it's true. To do that, we'll use the COUNTIFS function. Again, please enroll in my functions, important functions course. If you need to learn a bit more about functions, this is also one of the functions that I teach about in there. I'll do the COUNTIFS function here just so that you can see the results. What it would do, it would tell you how many times a specific value appears in a specific range. That's the purpose of this function. Then I'll just do the AND function to give us a true or false value. So we'll just say if this is 1, it must give us true. And yeah, that is basically the same as what the conditional formatting would do. It would check if your argument is true. And if it's true, format. If it's not, then not format. So if we do COUNTIFS on this range here, we're going to just check the customer name. So if the customer's name appears, how many times the customer's name appear in our range. So we'll say equals COUNTIFS. Criteria range will work on this. I'm doing this so that you know how to enter it into the conditional formatting, because the function works the same inside the conditional formatting as what it does in Excel itself. The only difference would be in conditional formatting, Excel would automatically make this as an absolute reference. So I'll show you where you need to change that. So COUNTIFS, we're counting in that range there, And what is the criteria? The criteria is this cell. So we're counting this cell in this range. I'm going to lock the range because we don't want it to go outside the range. It needs to stay in this range. So absolute reference for the start, absolute reference for the end of the range, and this one we will lock the column but not the rows. We don't need to use the countIf function here, but I'm doing it this way because this is how you would enter it into your conditional formatting. So countIf in that range, the value equals this cell. The next one would carry on. If we drag this down, it would look for that one. The next one would look for that one, and basically count how many times that specific value appears in the range. Okay, so countIf is range, criteria, close our brackets, and you'll see that that name only appears once. If we were to copy this formula down all the way to the bottom, all these rows with 1 in our range that we're going to tell it to apply the formulas to the formatting to, would be highlighted. Everything, all of these are duplicates. This one appears 3 times, 2 times, 3 times, 3 times, 2 times. So if we were to do the AND function, just to show you the true and false, and logical one, that equals 1. Does it equal 1? Does it not equal 1? True or false? So that's true, and this one is false, it's not 1, that one's not 1, that one's not 1, and so forth. So now to apply the conditional formatting, select our range, conditional formatting, new rule, use formula. Let's just quickly apply our format first. So we've got a yellow fill, and bold. Okay, so that's what we want it to look like. Now to do our formula, we'll just say equals COUNTIF. Now we apply the COUNTIF function. COUNTIF in this range, we count this value, but don't lock the row. We need to lock the range, and we need to lock the column, because remember, this same formula will be moved on to this cell, to this cell, to this cell, to that cell. So all of these ones must look for this value in this row only, nothing to do with the other columns. So COUNTIF, the answer of that equals 1. So if this result equals 1, it's true, it applies the formatting. If it's not 1, it's false, it doesn't apply the formatting. And hit OK. And as you can see, all of these here that's been highlighted is 1 and true, 1 and true. And with regards to the formulas of conditional formatting, that is how it works. You give it an argument. If it's true, it formats. If it's false, it doesn't format.